Welcome everybody to the Navigating Now Roundtable virtual series. This is episode 29. We broadcast live every Thursday afternoon at 3 o'clock Central on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, all social media channels. We really appreciate everybody stopping by, particularly those on our LinkedIn feed. We really appreciate our LinkedIn community joining our live feeds. For those of you who are joining us via Zoom, we appreciate you sitting at the table with us. You will have an opportunity to ask questions throughout. So you can do so in the Q&A or the chat box. In fact, we'll open the chat box open here in a second. If you've got any questions for the guests, we would absolutely love to hear from you. We'd also love for you to say hello. Hi, Megan Brown. Thank you so much for saying hi to everybody. We are extremely excited to have a return guest to the Navigating Now Roundtable series. We're 29 weeks into building this platform of community and of leadership. And today we have someone who's standing at the center of both. Kathleen Brown, the founder of Buddhi. She's going to tell you all about her growing organization and how it is poised and positioned to serve the cancer community. We, as I mentioned throughout, would love to hear from you all. So for those of you who are joining via LinkedIn, say hello in the comments. If you've got a question, you can go ahead and drop that in the comments and we will keep tabs on it throughout. So let's get into it. Kathleen, it is so great to have you. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you so much for having me here. I am truly honored, and it's so good to see your face. We used to get to see each other's faces for years at our WeWork office, but now I know in my dungeon at home.
It's an absolute different world. Yeah, it's an absolute different world. But again, it's so glad to be connected to you. I know that you are one of a few in our inner circle that we absolutely love to support because we know that we get equal amounts of energy back. And we'll get into that in just a moment. But I will tell you, Kathleen, earlier today, I was sifting through Buddhi's Instagram page, which I think is just an incredible place to start to learn a little bit more about Kathleen, her organization, and all of the amazing things that they're doing. And I saw a new piece of content that you had posted today that it was just one of those pieces of content where whatever you're doing, you kind of stop. And I know that it was a bit of that had to do with production because I'm a bit of a production fiend. So if you've got a good hook, if you've got good lighting, good visuals, and good music, I'm in. But the message hit as well too. And there was a term that came out before you maybe explain the piece of content. There was a term that you were describing in this piece of content, and I almost want to start there. You talked about empty platitudes. What are those?
You know, it's funny. I didn't know what platitudes were until our content writer started working on a piece for our library and said platitudes. And I had to Google it. It was like, what are platitudes? But platitudes are essentially phrases people say that are well-intentioned, and they're kind of like the thing you're supposed to say, like, how are you today? And, get well soon. And, like things that you truly do care about the answer, but like, are you really waiting to see, like, what if they say, I'm not great today? Get well soon. Well, I would if I could. So we kind of wanted to explore what that phrase meant and how it makes people feel.
Interesting. And what did you find?
So the program actually that I participated in that you're referencing, the video was from Twist Out Cancer, is an incredible cancer organization. And they have a program called Brushes with Cancer that happens in about 4 different cities every year. And I was lucky enough to participate in the Chicago event this year. They paired me with an artist who essentially wanted to interpret my cancer journey in a piece of art. And so, the way that the program works is we got to know each other, and he started asking more questions about my journey. One of the things that really sticks out in my cancer journey and, sort of the impetus for me creating Buddhi is that I really resented platitudes. I resented hearing the same thing over and over from friends and family. And of course, I have a different perspective about that now and about all of those well wishes. But as I was going through cancer as a real angsty teenager, when you're getting cards literally by the hefty bag at the time, I grew up in a small town in Riverside, which is just outside of Chicago. I was the only kid in town that had cancer. And so you're talking my junior high, my brother's schools, my cousin's schools, like actually, some of the friend kids that I'm sure you're familiar with from growing up, they were all sending cards. Like they all heard about this sick girl. And so it was a beautiful gesture. All these cards were sent with so much love. I wasn't feeling that. I was feeling like those words made me feel pitied and like, I was weak. And really that's not what everyone meant by it. And so what we wanted to do with this program was, how can we deconstruct the idea of platitudes? How can we help people better understand what someone that's going through cancer treatment or recovering from cancer treatment is experiencing? And how can your words and your actions move them from feeling pitied to empowered, like that they know you've got their back and they know you truly care how they're doing. You're not pushing them to get well soon before they're ready or before they actually have the ability to.
Interesting. And I want to get into Buddhi and the mission and the vision of your organization, but to stay on this platitudes piece, I also think it's interesting to explore for those of us who are supporting loved ones, friends, family with cancer. It's also really difficult for us sometimes to understand how to show up that is not greeting card-esque or, stay strong or get well. Yes. Right. So is there that side of platitudes as well, too, where there's also just a little bit of education that needs to be done to help those who are caring for cancer, either survivors or patients, and empowering them to do and say the right things?
Yes, absolutely. And it's something that I struggle with too. Like, here I'm talking about how those words actually made me feel like, I wanted to light shit on fire, but really, this morning alone, 2 friends of mine have parents that were, recently diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. I find myself at a loss of words. What is the right thing to say? There's no right or wrong thing to say, but what is something that I can respond where they know that I care and that, I see them and I'm here for them. So it's hard for both sides of the equation. There's really like no cut and dry, like here's what you do when a friend or family member is diagnosed with cancer. But that is something that, our entire mission with Buddhi is to not only connect cancer thrivers with the resources and people to feel better and to feel less alone, but with friends and family connected with, here's some helpful words of advice, like fill in the blank here. Here are things that would be really helpful for your friend or family member to hear. And here are some ways that you could support them that would allow them to have some autonomy and some, empowerment in deciding what they need at that given time, because it's different day by day.
Yeah. That's really cool. I mean, there's so much there. There's absolutely so much there. Let's take a step back though. I want to have you introduce yourself. I want you to tell us a little bit about kind of your background, maybe the path that you've walked to get to where you're at today, both personally and professionally, and then tell us about Buddhi. And I know that that's a lot to ask, but tell the world who you are.
I'm up to it. Thank you. So I'm Kathleen Brown, and I founded Buddhi last January to be exact, and really started working on it as a labor of love. You and I had worked at a WeWork space in Chicago together, and it really started while I was working at St. Jude full time, and I was working in corporate development there. I had spent the past 2 decades fundraising for them in sort of a volunteer capacity as a fundraiser and, board member and event organizer until I started full time and spent really an incredible 5 years there, not only working in field events, but corporate development, as I mentioned. And so what I learned is, as I got to know so many people that had been touched by cancer, I realized there is really like a bridge that we need to gap between social support and healing for cancer thrivers, right? So it kind of like was this idea that I had for years, like, wouldn't it be great if there was essentially something like the knot for cancer wellness, like something that would allow friends and family to do something that would be helpful. So it really started with just like this pie in the sky idea. And I mentioned it to a couple people at WeWork, and they're like, you should really do something about this and start putting the ideas in motion. And like, no, I love St. Jude. They're the best. I'm never going to leave. Truly had a dream job there, working for like the best boss, the best team. And the more I started working on this and talking to more people, they were like, you should talk to this person. You should talk to this person. The idea was validated like a million times over. And I thought, shit, I haven't been this excited about anything ever. And I didn't think that I would really ever be able to make this a reality, but it sounds like the world needs it. And I had no idea where to start. I didn't think I was a born entrepreneur. It really just started with talking to smart people that, hey, have you done this before? Can you put me in touch with someone? And then I started attending like a million workshops, over 150 to be exact, to learn how to do all the things I didn't know how to do, or at least be dangerous enough to know a little bit about the topic. And yeah, I mean, I guess it helped that I had a sales background at Comcast and Disney before that. So I really knew how to cold call and how to be comfortable with rejection, because, you know, there's a hell of a lot of that in the startup world. But yeah, I mean, I left St. Jude full time within a few months, started working on this on my own for the first year or so, and then realized that, you know, I'd put as much capital as I could into it, realized I'm going to need my stock and 401k from my former career in order to live for a while. So I found investors that really helped us keep building.
You know, and when you decided to take that jump was right about the time that you and I had met.
Yep.
And I knew you as the crazy one that was sitting in the hoteling space longer than we were in our office. And there were very few people that were at WeWork later than we were at that time. And, you know, I always had so much fun with, you know, the people that I always knew were going to be around.
Yeah.
I've talked about this a lot, particularly here in the local West Loop community. For everybody who's watching, Kathleen and I also live within like 6 blocks of each other. And I've been talking a lot about the power of very local community these days. And for me, how my 6-block radius has shown me more in the last 8 months, now that I've had to pay attention to it because we've been so grounded, than I knew about it in 15 years. The power of the day-to-day, the power of the people that are just there. And I see that in opening my eyes on my walk to work, in connecting with a few of the local business leaders and learning a little bit more about their day-to-day, and realizing that, and I hate to say it, but we are all in this together, particularly small business owners and entrepreneurs. And so there's almost this unsaid connection that I believe you and I have as entrepreneurs. And it's really unsaid. Like I'm having a hard time even explaining it now, but I took so much solace in knowing that you were starting something, you were willing to put the work in, and you were going to show up.
Yep. Then
there's real power in that, right? As an entrepreneur.
Definitely. And especially like if you know, and I know you are obsessed with the work that you do, like when you love something that you're working on, and, you know, the people that you're getting to do that with are lifting you up and inspiring you, it makes the work a hell of a lot easier. I know I had been warned a lot by, you know, fellow business owners, like, beware of burnout. You know, you've got to have a work-life balance and don't push yourself too hard. And I didn't really know what that was for the first year and a half. It was like, oh my God, I never want to stop working, because literally every single day I'm connected with at least one person that's been affected by cancer. And this isn't just, you know, an adult that has cancer or is in recovery. This is people who love them and are helpless and they don't know where to turn. And I know from my own experience, not just my own personal experience, but getting to know so many folks, there have to be more solutions out there. And there really isn't a one size fits all. And so that's what inspires me to do it every day. And I also think that makes you just not fear the what ifs as much, right? Like, you know, whether you've had a brush with death because, you know, you were almost hit by a car at an intersection, or you've had cancer. For me, that is what I'm reminded about every day. I've had a number of cancer scares. I have significant long-term health effects. And I know today literally might be my last every day. And of course, that's a risk that my investors take in me. Like, what happens if something, you know, were to happen to Kathleen? But it also makes me crazy as shit. Like, I will not stop until this mission is achieved. So.
Yeah. So what were maybe some of the first, you know, as you thought about transitioning from St. Jude's to kind of building your own thing, what were some of the first decisions that you made?
Oh my gosh. Actually, what's funny is yesterday I was looking for a note, and I've got my journals, and this was the original Buddy journal of like original business plan. And
Uh-huh.
page 3 is bullet points of what I was going to say to my boss.
Mm.
The aforementioned boss that was my favorite, one of my favorite humans, and just one of the most exceptional leaders I've ever had the privilege of working for. I was scared shitless to have a conversation with him
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't want him or anyone at St. Jude to think that I loved their mission any less, and that I was any less committed to, letting everyone know what an incredible organization it was. So that was the biggest hurdle for me, was just having that conversation and saying, guess what? There's something that I want to work on, and I don't want to leave St. Jude. I want to do this on the side, but I want to make sure that there is absolutely no conflict with what I'm doing. And of course, I was met with nothing but support. Like there was reason to be fearful, because it's not like I was leaving and like the dude in Office Space was like, F you, you're cool. I wasn't ready to like leave and burn shit down. I didn't want to do that. That I wasn't leaving because I was unhappy. And so I think that made that conversation a lot easier. The biggest fear after that was, of course, money. How in the world am I going to do this? I have no clue how I would support myself if I couldn't stay at St. Jude building this. And I'll tell you, there was a period of time that we were negotiating me staying. And ultimately what it came down to was, if it was pulling me away from really ensuring Buddy was successful and giving it my all, I wasn't going to be able to make both work, because I would be conflicted. Where do I spend most of my time? And so I had to step away. And because I hadn't been planning to leave when I did, I gave myself a year runway. And that runway came from, my incredible stock and 401k benefits at my previous employers. And let me tell you, a year is not close to enough to have gotten by on. But like any scrappy entrepreneur, you just make it work. You figure things out day by day, and how can I stay afloat? And so for me, that meant doing everything on my own and not hiring anyone. And all the capital that I raised, how can I stretch $1 into 10 every day?
Well, let me maybe even share the way that and this is really from the periphery, kind of like passing conversations with you and following you on social media, the way that I experienced some of your process of building Buddy, because I think it's really unique and I admire it. I've learned with our business and also working with other small business owners that there's a few ways that you can go about the first steps in starting a business. And the first is to kind of get behind closed doors, lead with strategy. And I mean, put, pieces of paper all over the wall, do all of the forecasting, the feasibility analysis, like understanding, can I live on my salary? How much money do I need? Do I need to hire people? Do I have a viable product? And then getting as close to you can with, a prototype or something to go to market, and going to market and testing it and trying it. I think there's another approach, which, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I saw you kind of take this approach. And again, I really admire it, which is, I saw you just put yourself out in the marketplace, and you led with legit relationships, conversations. And I saw that in as tactically as the way that you reached out to folks, whether that's on LinkedIn or email, even the way that like you followed up with me when we first met. It was extremely thoughtful, but also extremely tactical and strategic. Like there was real follow-up. And I remember thinking, gosh, she, like me, has, this exciting opportunity and responsibility to build this business, to set strategy, to put plans in place, also to do the work. And she needs to grow, her business and create capital.
Yeah.
And I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like nothing came before the relationships for you. And it's probably still the same way, but that's also very challenging, right?
It's very challenging, especially when you have a bleeding heart, because more people I meet that have been touched by this problem that I'm hell-bent on solving, my heart breaks 1,000 times a day. And that has been my motivating force, because when I hear that pain and that emotion in the person that I'm talking to, particularly that's been impacted by cancer, it motivates me to just figure things out and not allow a roadblock to stop me. And so, as we started building Buddhi, and it was me and initially, an outsourced development team, and now has since grown. We've got a content writer and a social media manager, and our community director is actually my sister. I was able to recruit her, and so in the beginning when it was just me, you're wearing 1,000 hats. Like, it is impossible to lead product and also fundraise and do the day-to-day and figure out social media and also, develop relationships within the cancer community. And then of course, for our marketplace partners, but you can't do any of that until you truly understand how is this problem reflected in your life, potential customer. Like, it doesn't matter what I think the vision of Buddhi should be, or what content we have, or what stores we have in the marketplace. What do people want? And so initially I had this grand vision, and this is now my long-term vision, but the short-term vision was that we were going to serve every adult impacted by cancer. So Buddhi was going to be for you, primary user, whether you're patient, survivor, previvor, caregiver, co-survivor. What I realized with the pandemic, you've got to stretch a dollar, and you've got to be very intentional about a more specific end user. And so ultimately what needed to work for everything to work was that the cancer thriver themselves, that's in treatment or post-treatment, was served, that their needs were met first and foremost. And of course, the mechanism behind that support comes from social support, from friends and family. But friends and family want to do what the cancer thriver wants, right? Like, we need to make sure that they're happy. And so, I don't think I could have built this business had I not had sales experience and fundraising experience.
Right.
Where I understood the sales process. I learned, what people always want to know. What's in it for me? What's in it for me? Like, I don't give a shit about you, Kathleen, and your vision for Buddhi. What are you going to do for me? And so that's where we started. Like, how are you hurting, and how can me or Buddhi help you? And that's really where we start.
And how local was that? Like, when you say what are some of your needs and how can we help you? Was that through your first and second degree of folks that you knew that were impacted, or did you immediately start with broader outreach?
No, it was very small at first. And again, because I was doing things in the beginning kind of hush hush. And so I was hosting events at WeWorks all over Chicago, and talking to people. And honestly, our earliest supporters came from within the WeWork community. Lots of cancer thrivers and caregivers that I met through WeWork. They're actually prominently featured on our website, because when I started putting out the call for help and to get some of that initial R&D done, I had to keep things a little quiet. But you have to start with who you know, right? So it started with initially the people that weren't necessarily touched by St. Jude, because again, I was worried about them finding out, and and then once I was able to leave to go do this full time, my family and friends, that's a tough thing. I don't know if you felt this way, or if you've had to lean on family and friends to really be your hype people, but it was really uncomfortable for me to ask friends and family and former coworkers, hey, can you follow us on social media? Can you join our newsletter? But that's where our initial community started, because everyone knows someone that's touched by cancer. And so we've seen the beautiful network effects that have started from these initial people that I had conversations with 2 years ago, that have invited someone to join Buddhi, that's now told these cancer communities that they're part of. And now one person led to 24. So it's been a beautiful thing to see lots of names I don't know on our mailing list and following social media. And now they're engaging and they're giving us feedback and attending events. So it's cool.
And I wonder if that's something that is a potential challenge to, or a blocker to, a lot of entrepreneurs. And we've experienced this as well too. There is a desire to, get your product, your service, your business out there. And because we have social media as large scale and as free as it is, your mind immediately goes to okay, we've got these tools and we've got these channels. How can I create that perfect message, that perfect piece of content that gets to everybody, right? And sometimes we'll spend a lot of time in that space, in the scalability space, particularly around messaging and marketing. And what we don't realize is, starting with your first and second degree is unbelievably effective for A, testing your prototype,
Yep.
And B, getting like early traction.
Yes, exactly.
You know?
Like,
And as business owners, it's hard to let go of the vision of your brand, in my case, Thoughtium, being on the billboards and being on like a Super Bowl ad, right? I'm thinking like that this is ridiculous.
down the road, dream big, man.
But this is sometimes what we think about when we start a company. Like how big can we go with our impact? Yep. And how big can we go with our messaging? And sometimes we get a little overzealous because the ability to go broad is there. I mean, if I wanted to pump a Facebook ad to a couple million people tomorrow, well, we could do that for a couple $100. Whereas, 15, 20 years ago, that would be millions of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars at least for traditional mediums.
Yep.
But I also think what comes with that then is sometimes you're not able to get to the core value proposition by leveraging kind of the mass mediums as quick as you are by going to who you know and who you trust. Yep. And trying and iterating and testing and trying again. And that's the way that I experienced you and your process of building Buddhi. Was you were not at all afraid or worried about staying local, if you will.
Yeah.
Right. And I hope that's something you'll continue to harness.
No, absolutely. And that's honestly, like, as I've thought about the vision of Buddhi and these big audacious goals, we have to ensure, like, if we're not staying true to why we originally started and we're building a product that people want and they want to keep coming back to, those are the metrics that we're tracking. And if we're veering off course and it becomes just a numbers game, Buddhi wasn't started because we want to be the biggest X. It's how do we actually make an impact in this space and disrupt something that isn't working, and what motivates me is not only the people that we're serving, but remember the pain that I experienced, remembering how lonely it felt while I was going through treatment, recovering from treatment, remembering what those dark days were like. They got real dark. And I felt like no one understands me, no one gets this. And while it might be easier, to harness my story and be like, I'm the face of Buddhi, Buddhi's not about me. But in telling my story to people, they've connected to my heart and said, oh my God, me too, me too. Like, the formation of Buddhi was a me too movement within the cancer world. And so I realized if we can't relate on that common level of like, how are we hurting and what is helpful to work through it, what we're building and the resources are all crowdsourced. It's people saying, you know what, it's been really helpful. Therapy. What's been really helpful is acupuncture. Like, okay, cool. Let's introduce more people to these resources so they stop hurting too much.
Do you find it challenging to describe what Buddhi is?
Yes. My biggest challenge.
Here's the cool thing. I'm obsessed with your brand.
Thank you.
I just am. I mean, and I mean like the tactical expression of your brand, the look, the feel, it emotes personality, and there's something very human behind it. I think there's so many directions that the concept of Buddhi and the meaning of Buddhi can take. So I guess a couple of questions for you. Today, and I want to talk more like tactically, like what exactly is Buddhi? Like if I go to buddy.com, like, and I'm just interested because I've got somebody in my life who's got cancer and I want to learn more on how to support them. Like what specifically is Buddhi? And we'll start there.
Yeah. So first you'll go to hibuddy.com. It's HIBUDDI.com. No, I wanted the Buddhi domain, but unfortunately it's not available because a man named Buddhi has the domain and someone else has got the Insta handle. So we're hibuddy.com. And essentially it's a digital companion for adults coping with cancer. And so we do that by inviting cancer thrivers to join the community. And when they join the community, there's discussions, there's content, written content, video content, on-demand events, and they can connect with other people that are in a similar situation as them and really talk through and work through some of the struggle, get off the struggle bus, if you will. And then within the next few weeks, we're going to be releasing a social tool that will then bring in family and friends. And so cancer thrivers will be able to express how they're feeling through a Jiffy. I love a good Jiffy. You don't necessarily have to provide your family and friends with a whole long-winded update. They truly want to know, how are you feeling today and how can I help? So we're making it a little easier for people to share regular updates and really get to the heart of how they're feeling. So we can move from pain, obviously, towards, something a little bit more helpful. And then the marketplace will be launching the beginning of next year. And everything that we're doing on the content, event, and marketplace front is powered by what the community is saying that they're struggling with and what they need and what's been helpful. So
to double click on the marketplace, this is a marketplace for supporters who want to go and is it a curated set of like products and services? Tell us a little bit about the marketplace. I'm super interested in that.
Yeah. So like you as a family or friend could go to Buddy and you can invite someone to join. Currently, you invite them via email. We've done a gift boxing campaign. We've done a face mask campaign during COVID. And so what we've seen is about 70% of people that are invited to Buddy by a friend are joining. So, that speaks to the nature of social support and how critical it is, for a cancer thriver to really feel like people are there for them and they want to help them. So when the marketplace launches, you as a family or friend could invite them to join Buddy with a gift, either by putting $50 in their wellness wallet, $10, whatever you're comfortable with.
That's cool.
You can invite them with money that is in a bank, essentially, that they can use within the platform. So let's say, for instance, someone joins and, family and friends have put $100 in their wallet and they attend a breathwork event with our friend Stephanie Ray. We did an event with her recently. They could use those funds to do another workshop with Stephanie or buy a one-on-one session with her. They could buy some essential oils to help with nausea and headaches. They could buy an acupressure mat. It's the products that are going to be in the marketplace are determined by what people have said are going to be helpful. So right now we're not able to really talk about the vendors that are going to be in there, but it'll be a mix of products and services, because the point is not to just sell some shit. I've never wanted to just sell anything that's not helpful to someone. So we're being very intentional with what's in the marketplace.
But Kathleen, I thought you were a salesperson. You should be able to sell anything.
No, I swear, I will not, and my sales managers will all tell you this. When there was so I worked at ABC radio networks for a while, and then ESPN and TV, radio, and they'd be like, we've got this great new show. It's with, Bobo the Clown and, some former college football player that was third string. And I'm like, I'm not selling that shit. Show me the ratings and show me the audience feedback. And if it's actually a good show, I'll sell it. So yeah, I've always been, really, I don't know. I have a lot of integrity in what I sell. And, you can rest assured I'm not ever going to try and force anyone to do anything they're not comfortable with or buy something that isn't helpful.
Well, I think, for those of us who are tuning in, we can now start to see, the reason why the title of this episode is Building a Startup That Cares. And it really does feel like that barometer for you is how deeply you're able to connect and more so care for those people who have been impacted. And so I think it's incredible. And I want to talk a little bit about that in a second. But I remember, was it about this time last year? Is at some point last year that you were doing the box that you were sending out?
Yeah.
And I want to talk a little bit about that because I thought that was just such an incredible campaign. And when you and I were talking about it, there were a couple reasons why you sent a box out. And one of those was to get feedback. So can you tell us a little bit about this box, why you sent it out, and some of the insights that you were getting back?
Yeah, definitely. So that was actually our original go-to-market strategy. Was we were going to launch the marketplace first. The community was going to come last. And that was my, I don't want to say, I messed up there, but we should have always built the community first. And COVID obviously opened our eyes to people are incredibly isolated. How do we just connect them with other people and content resources now for free, not have any payment associated with it. But when we were originally launching, February 24th is when our site went live. The mechanism for inviting someone to Buddy was geared more towards friends and family, sending either an email or they could purchase this $59 box, which inside had obviously an invitation to join Buddy with a handwritten note. But it had this book called Heal by one of my favorite humans, Kelly Noonan Gores. It had an eye mask, essential oils to sleep better, and a notepad and a pen inside. So obviously they could express themselves. The idea was, one, that it was a very intentionally curated gift, but it gave the cancer thriver a sneak peek of what they could expect when they join Buddy, and to get feedback. What do you like? What do you not like? If you think essential oils are stupid, or they're interfering with your chemo drugs, tell us. If you think an eye mask is not helpful, we really just want to get feedback. And what we saw, so within the first 10 days, we ordered 30 of them, and we sold out 19 out of 30 within the first 10 days. We're like, okay, this is obviously helpful, but COVID happened. And like, I'm not shipping someone something that might have the virus. Like, we didn't know anything in March and even beginning of April. So we put the pause in the box and thought, well, how can we be helpful to the community now, and what do they need? And so after, I honestly have been crying in fetal position a little bit in those first few weeks, like, oh God, what do we do? I just started getting a pulse check in the community, checking in with people, what a human would do. Like, how are you? I'm hurting. Are you? And what I found is people were scared shitless to leave their homes. People, that couldn't get to the grocery store, people whose treatments were delayed because everyone was fearful of catching COVID and no one could get a mask. And so, I worked within my network, found a couple distributors, and got masks as quickly as we could. And I raised money from within my network, because it's like, oh, I don't have this budgeted, but would people be willing to purchase a mask for a cancer thriver to keep them safe? And, we raised about $5,500, bought as many masks as we could, and we've been shipping them out since May. Of course, it took a little long, I say May, but no one could get masks, and we had some setbacks like everyone else. But honestly, from doing that, that's where most of our communities come from. The people that received a mask and told someone else about a mask, and there's no strings attached. Some people, got the mask, joined the newsletter, and then, decided this is for me, and that's fine. It was meant to just give them a little love and keep them safe.
Yeah. And this is, you and I have talked about this before, and we were talking about it just before the episode, the power in design thinking, we call it showing unfinished work, or putting pen to paper, or just putting something out there is, and I've seen it with you, and I've seen it with other small business owners, the ability to test and see what works without any sense of judgment, whether that's your own or the marketplace. It's a muscle that you have to build. So tell us a little bit about that strength that you have today. And I know it's something we all continue to work on, but your ability to go to market without having all the answers, and your willingness to stay open and get actual market feedback. Tell us a little bit about that. How did you develop that? Where did that start? Maybe what are some tips that people can get from your experience?
Yeah, I think so. I'm a recovering perfectionist. It is not one of my strengths. Even though I've been doing public speaking since I was a kid, I dread it. I love this conversation, and I love like the one-on-one, and getting to really like connect with someone on a deep human level. But I have a lot of social anxiety, and it was not comfortable for me to put any unfinished product out in the marketplace. Like, even our website, like I said, it launched February 24th. Within 12 days, I was like, oh, can we just blow this up? Like, we just spent a month building this, but this doesn't make sense anymore. But what I've learned is just being human, being real, just like being myself. That's where the deepest connections have been made. It's not posting, a polished Instagram video where I've got my hair done and a ring light on. That works for some people, but that's not my brand. It's not Buddy brand. We can't help people if they can't be real and share what's on their mind and how they're struggling. And so I had to get real comfortable with that. And, you follow me on Insta. I really started quarantine wearing makeup and like putting myself together every day. And now I'm like, I'm just going to do a video of me being me, and my dog photobombing me, and just talking about an event or how I'm feeling. Because that's where people connect. Like, those are the people I connect with. Yeah. And where we started, you asked about our brand before. I didn't know anything really about like brand building and what's in a brand until I started taking some workshops. And one of our friends from WeWork, EP029, she used to work there for another startup. I connected with her in the bathroom. We both have doodle dogs. And, I started telling her about Buddy, and she had said, hey, if I can ever be helpful, let me know. And, it's kind of, as a business owner, founder, you're like, okay, they don't really mean it. Or, should I really follow up and take them up on it? She helped us build the brand. Like, initially it was working with my developer and designer on like the idea of like the logo identity and color scheme. And, he's been incredible in designing the site and the app and all of that. But, when we sat down with Kristen, we literally, the day she got married, she did this for us pro bono. Like, let's put a paper up on the wall in a WeWork conference room, and just, what is Buddy about? And vulnerability is like one of the number one things, just being real. And so that's really how I feel like we've been able to connect with people, by not you don't want anyone to feel like they can't be themselves, and they can't say if they're really angry, upset, if they don't feel comfortable even telling their romantic partner, I don't want to do something in the bedroom tonight. I'm just not feeling it. Like, you can tell us, like, because this community of people within Buddy's been there. You don't need to accept those empty platitudes. Tell us how you really feel.
Yeah. I love that. And just going back to kind of the tactics of it all, I think that, I continue to go back to, who's around you that is either able to support or enable that level of putting work forward, authenticity, unfinished work, rugged edges, right? And if we are pointing either ourselves or our businesses towards perfect, it's never going to work out. And it is so easier said than done, right? Because, I wake up most mornings and there's some sort of thought of like, what would make this project perfect, or this business perfect, or this deal perfect. Yep. But I really think that COVID has shifted things in my world to where that lens of perfect is starting to dissipate. It's starting to dissolve. And for me, it's geographically, like, I have had to really, and I brought this up at the beginning of the episode, I have really had to pay attention to what is immediately around me. My friends, my family, those that are closest to me, my team, my business partner. And I've had to very intently focus on these people. And I, in turn, have realized that these are the people that want the rough version of me. These are the people that want the unfinished work.
Yeah.
And I get so much out of that. And then you start to realize, I don't have time in this life to invest outside of that first and second degree. And I wonder if, and I think we're starting to realize that we're never going to go back to normal, but I do wonder if in a few years from now, when we are not as restricted, if these behaviors are going to stick with all of us, particularly business owners who have had to really, really focus in on what is most important.
Yes. Yeah. And making really tough decisions in personal and professional life. I think, COVID has really woken a lot of us up to like what's really important and what are those connections that keep us going when stuff gets tough. And it's tough for all of us. Like the depths of despair within my own personal network. It's crushing, and it's something I worry about all the time, are like, what are the mental health implications of COVID going to look like? And how are those effects going to reverberate for years to come? And what do we do about that? Because I think so many people, myself included, for so many years, run from the pain, run from what's uncomfortable, and don't face it head on. And this year, because so many of us have had to slow down and stay at home, we've had to face that. We've had to face unknown, and the fear, all the fears that come up, and, how am I going to pay my bills and support my family? What am I on this earth to do? And I hope that Buddy, in some small way, can, make a difference in people's lives, whether they've been touched by cancer or not. If we can, show people it's okay to open up and, to be real and to seek help when you need it, it wasn't until I started working on that Brushes with Cancer campaign that we talked about in the beginning with Empty Platitudes, that I was able to tell my family members that I was suicidal after I finished cancer treatment, and how deeply I was hurting while I was trying to recover and go back to normal after cancer. And I don't know why it took me almost 25 years to tell them that, but in opening up about that and, you know, other trauma in my life, that's how we're able to have like better conversations and like talk through the tough stuff, and instead of ignoring it and just wishing it away or numbing it with, you know, whatever, drugs or alcohol or, you know, whatever, just running from it. That's not helpful, because eventually it's going to fester. And, you know, I would hope that Buddy is a vehicle for people, you know, even if you just want to talk, you know, my information's always available. You can slide into my DMs, and you don't have to have a polished look. I'm probably gonna, you know, whatever. All I'm saying is I just hope Buddy can help people be a little bit more real.
Yeah, well, I can tell you with your energy and your authenticity, you know, I say this to our team all the time, that it really doesn't matter like what Thoughtium is in 3 to 5 years. And we joke sometimes, you know, we're in professional services, and we joke sometimes that like, if we're selling t-shirts in 5 years, like I'm good, as long as we can be absolutely lit up about it, and that we have a community of people that we're able to serve in the same way that we are today. Yeah. And, you know, that to me is the foundation of a thriving business, and also like just a real meaningful vision and mission, which I know you have. I want to end maybe on one other question. And this is really around kind of your vision. You know, what would you consider as your highest goal? And this could be personally, it could be for Buddy. I know sometimes, especially in COVID, like, you know, our heads have just been so down on either staying alive, staying afloat, or keeping others alive and afloat. But just for a second, you know, if you could lift your head up and you were able to see very clearly, you know, into the future, like what do you see for yourself, and what do you see for Buddy?
So what I see for myself is, you know, leading Buddy to a point that it is the first thing you do when you hear someone is diagnosed with cancer is you go to Buddy and you tell them about it, and you invite them to join the community. That would be number one, that I want Buddy to be as ubiquitous as someone going to someone's wedding registry or their baby registry when they're, you know, getting married or having a baby, because I know that Buddy can be that trusted resource for so many people. So, you know, I do believe that it is my life's purpose for Buddy to be successful. You know, I don't necessarily feel like I need to lead Buddy into the future decades down the road if I'm not meant to be leading it down the road. So again, when we go back to what is serving people, if, you know, folks in our audience are like, I love Buddy so much, I will never give Buddy up, but she's got to go, then that's what needs to happen, as long as we ensure that the mission continues. That's bridging that gap between social support and healing for every adult impacted by cancer. So we're really trying to do that by ensuring their needs are met with resources and connection to people, and ensuring that the breakdown between cancer thriver and their family and friends isn't disrupted anymore, because cancer ghosting is a thing. I don't know if you've heard of it. Every time we post anything about cancer ghosting, the number of Me Too's and people saying, friends and family don't care about me anymore. They stopped reaching out to me once they heard I was sick, or, you know, my parent was sick. We can't allow that to happen. So that's what motivates me. Like, how do we keep people connected and make sure that they can heal in the long term after cancer, that there is a life after cancer, and it's a happy life.
I love that. What about you personally?
Personally, my goal would be to split my time between LA and Lisbon. I know that sounds like a wild goal, but like both are my happy places. I do love Chicago, and there's so many special people here, but I can't deal with this cold weather, especially with a dog. So my goal would be, you know, living there, you know, writing a book, multiple books about, you know, single adventures or just, you know, cancer journey, and you know, being as personally fulfilled as possible. So doing things that light me up and bring me joy. Ideally, I'd like to have a partner included in that if I find the right partner, but we will see. I'm certainly not settling when we talk about, YOLO and what would happen if today was my last day on earth. I'm certainly not wasting it with someone that doesn't light me up and bring me joy.
Yeah, I love that.
So.
Have you heard of Matthew McConaughey's new book, Green
I
Lights?
have. Yes, because I saw an interview where he was promoting it recently.
Yeah, it's funny. I've been telling everybody about this book, and I am not a Matthew McConaughey guy whatsoever. Frankly, I just a lot of his characters I just found kind of annoying in films. Yeah. But he has been on the podcast circuit, and he's been talking a lot about this book. And so I picked it up, and it is incredible. It really is incredible. And it's all about, taking certain pauses in your life and, looking back in a kind of healthy, constructive way, and seeing how the good of what's behind you can propel you forward. And, what I love about his book is it talks specifically about how to do that. And he takes these, what he calls walkabouts, at certain inflection points in his life where he will just leave town, and he'll do it for sometimes 20, 30 days at a time. And he's got a couple kids and a wife and a family that support him in doing this. But he says that it really allows him, and he goes off in the middle of the desert, sometimes with no electricity. And he just sits, he just sits, and he's able to do this, reflect and connect. And from one of these more recent walkabouts, I think it was a 40 or 50 day walkabout, came this book. And it's just fascinating. And so when you talked about, being somewhere, writing books and things of that nature, I was like, I could so see Kathleen doing this, just somewhere where maybe half of her world knows where she is and the other half maybe doesn't. Just cranking out memoirs.
I love to go off the grid, but I think for so many years I've been a social butterfly. I had planned 6 days a week and spending a lot of time with family and friends and dating every schmo in the city. And now that it's quarantine, that doesn't bring me joy. Being around friends and family is, but I think I'm maybe I was a closeted introvert. I actually do love peace and quiet. I get so much energy from family and friends, but I think in smaller doses than maybe I'd ever realized pre-quarantine, that friends and family light me up, but also drain me. It's because I think I'm having a lot of, especially with Buddy, I'm having a lot of really deep emotional conversations with people.
Yes.
And I didn't really understand what it was like to have a bleeding heart until I started doing some inner work. And I'm like, oh my God, I feel other people's pain when they are telling me about their journey. It's like it's happening to me. And I didn't understand that before I started working on Buddy.
Are we maybe realizing just how much anxiety we've lived with, in through this pandemic? And for me, what I'm realizing are the things that I'm, the few things that I still have access to in the pandemic, which is, my health, my friends, my gym, and my apartment, are the things that ground me. Yeah. And when I think about starting to reintroduce travel, large social circles, chasing, whether that be people or capital or whatever, I'm reminded of the anxiety that comes with that. And so, recently I've got a birthday coming up, a fairly big one, and people are kind of asking well, what are you going to do? Are you going to travel? What are you going to? And there's part of me that just really wants to continue to stay grounded in, again, my 6-block radius, which is just absolutely life-giving for me these days. And maybe I'll just end with a little bit of gratitude. Because you've been a big part of that. And, that means a lot to me. That means a lot to my team here and to our community. There's certain people in your life that you just expect to show up and to be there, whether that's walking through WeWork at 11 o'clock at night, knowing that, someone else is going to be there, or, knowing that you're going to find that support in somebody when you post something on Instagram or when you've got a new business idea. And you have absolutely been a big source of not only support, but inspiration for myself particularly. And I want to thank you for that.
Oh, Anthony, thank you so much. I hope you know the feeling is mutual. And, you know, I remember the first time that we met at WeWork. It was a Sunday afternoon and my dog came running down the stairs and heard you were doing your expenses. And, you know, I didn't see you for a couple months after that because you travel so much. And like every time I'd see you, like, you know, there's certain people you meet and your face lights up and you just like feel happy and you feel like, you know, we're like, you know, connected, like our souls are connected or something. It's always felt like that. You know, so thank you for being just such a great friend and such a great support for me. And, you know, for believing me and Buddy when it was just like this insane idea. I really, you know, your support and your friendship has given me the confidence to keep going. And, you know, days that I've doubted myself and thought, I really don't know how this is going to work, to just keep putting one foot in front of the other and trying to throw shit at the wall and see what's next. So thank you for being part of my life. I'm so glad that, you know, our community has brought us together.
Yeah. And that community clearly and visibly means more to me today than I think it ever has. And if anything, I think we're all realizing what we have. And for me, this incredible community that, again, you know, is so close in proximity is something that, you know, I just don't think I'll ever look back the same way. So again, thank you so much. Thank you for being a part of it. How can people find you? Tell us about where people can find you and everything that you're up to.
Sure. So they can visit the website, hibuddy.com. It's HIBUDDHI.com. And then we're across all social media is @hibuddy. So again, it's @HIBUDDHI. And then my email is Kathleen@hibuddy.com. So, you know, you can reach out anytime. I'm on Instagram as well, but no one's going to remember all these different handles. So you can definitely find me. And if there's a delay in response, it's only because I'm overwhelmed. But if there's anything urgent, please let me know and ping me. I want to be there if I can for anyone that needs my support in whatever way. It doesn't have to be because you need cancer support.
Yeah.
Startup support, fundraising support, or just a friend.
Love it. Yeah. And I would encourage everybody to go to the HiBuddy Instagram page and watch the most recent post, the collaboration that you did with Twist Out Cancer. I mean, this was the piece that I talked earlier today that just like stopped my day. And it's been a really emotionally charged day. And that was a big part of it. I just got a lot of inspiration from that piece. And I think it really tells a bit of the story of who you are and who HiBuddy is becoming. So again, check that out on the Instagram page. We want to again thank Kathleen for stepping in as she always does. We also want to give everybody the heads up that we continue the Navigating Now Roundtable series every Thursday at 3:00 Central. We'll continue next week. We've got Brian Tufts. He's the Senior Director of Marketing at Baxter. Baxter's been doing some incredible repositioning of their marketing efforts to meet the needs of their marketplace in a COVID world. And Brian's been at the forefront of that. So we look to get some incredible insights from Brian next week. We will wrap up on December 17th with our last guest of the year, and it might be a surprise one. So thank you all for joining. I'm sorry that we didn't get to a couple of questions today. I was a little bit maybe selfish with Kathleen's time today, but hopefully you got a lot of insights. We are here again every Thursday at 3:00. So we hope to see you all next week. Have an incredible rest of the day and a very healthy rest of the week. Talk to you soon.